Hi guys, my name is Nick Broughton and I'm a Randomfish. If you're a Randomfish too, hit that subscribe button and like this video, hopefully you will. Now, last week I looked at a movie called Tusk, written and directed by Kevin Smith, as part of his True North Trilogy. For those of you who don't know, the True North Trilogy literally consists of that movie, Tusk, the second movie, Yoga Hosers, and the third movie, Moose Jaws, which is yet to be made. Moose Jaws is literally Jaws if it was a moose. I can't wait to see this movie. I just can't. I cannot wait to see this movie. Almost like I couldn't wait to see Yoga Hosers. Yoga Hosers hasn't come out on DVD in the UK. If it has, I can't find it anywhere for love nor money. However, what I have found is various ways of watching it online. Now, I have obviously paid for it like a good person, like a good boy. I have found and bought Yoga Hosers and watched it. Now, obviously, I'm going to explain the plot to you guys, and I'm going to give you my ideas and my thoughts on the film. The plot line pretty much consists of the two clerks that you found in Tusk, the two that gave Wallace the directions to the house that Michael Parks was in, and obviously these same girls who gave directions to his podcaster friend, his girlfriend who was sleeping with his podcaster friend, and Johnny Depp. Yes, he has a character name, but I'm not going to call him that. He's just Johnny Depp. He's Johnny Depp being funny. It's Johnny Depp, come on. The only characters that transfer over into Yoga Hosers are the two clerks from that store and Johnny Depp's character. That's enough for me. The two clerks are two Colleens. They're both called Colleen. They have two separate last names, obviously. They have two separate sets of parents. One of them is played by Johnny Depp's daughter, Lily Rose Depp, who is fantastic as always. And the other one is played by Harley Quinn Smith, Kevin Smith's daughter. Harley Quinn Smith. Let me just give you a second to let that sink into your brains. Yeah. She was named after a Batman villain. Ladies, you know what? Potential fathers, I'm going to make this out to you. Potential fathers, if you see that this man has named his child after a cartoon character, not even a character created in comics, Harley Quinn was created in the Batman TV show, yet she became so popular that all this stuff happened, and he was able to name his child after her. He even says in interviews, if it had been a boy, he'd have been called Batman Smith. It's that easy. I know most women won't agree with this, and frankly, that's fair. But let's face it, we've got to have a little bit of hope, haven't we? We've got to have a tiny bit of hope. But hey, we live, we learn. The two Colleens work out of this Canadian convenience store. Big step up for Kevin Smith, I know. He went from an American convenience store to a Canadian convenience store. He's branching out. He's doing a lot of things. He's branching out really well as Kevin Smith. In this convenience store called the A to Z, both of them work, obviously, and they're sarcastic to the customers. They're very much with the sarcastic one-liners. They've got the attitudes that teenagers would have working in a shop like that, as anyone would have. Let's face it, sarcasm is the order of the day for most people in the retail industry. I speak as someone who's been in the retail industry. But of course, they don't just do that. They also have a band that practices in the back of the shop with their 35-year-old drummer who apparently needs to get a life. And they spend more of their time with their yoga instructor called Yogi. Yes, he's called Yogi. And he spends a fair bit of the movie yelling at people from Warner Brothers saying, why are you saying that I'm ripping you off? That's actually kind of funny. Bizarre, but funny. But anyway, moving forward with the plot. The two of them get invited to a senior party. For those of you in England who don't understand what this is, watch any American TV show based in a high school. You'll get it. They're invited to a senior party. Now, both their mums and their mum and their dad, respectively, hate this. One of their mums hates it, and she's also played by Kevin Smith's wife, Jennifer Swarbuck. Literally, this thing is complete with cameos. Even Kevin's mum makes an appearance in this movie. It's fucking brilliant. But Colleen Mackenzie, played by Carly Quinn Smith's mother, played by Jennifer Schwarbuck, tells them that senior boys only invite sophomore girls to parties for one thing. Speaking on behalf of someone who's watched a lot of American movies and a lot of TV shows in which this sort of thing happens, and, you know, where you're mostly watching things from the point of view of the guy, it's true. They do literally only invite them to parties for one reason. And that reason is not to just sit there and hold your hand all evening. It really isn't. It's sad, but it's true. Oh well. Moving on. Within this movie, obviously they get told about this, and the other Colleen's dad is happy about this, but her stepmom, that's right, her stepmom, isn't. She isn't happy with this. Also, she also happens to be the manager at the convenience shop where the girls work. Fun? I don't think so. Due to various incidences involving Niagara Falls, the girls end up being forced to work at the shop for the evening, therefore eliminating them from going to the party. This is all due to the girlfriend of the other dad, stepmom. I don't know what she is, but she's a bitch. She's a bitch in this movie. The girls end up being forced to work. The two boys who are having the senior party, it turns out, don't actually have anyone around the house. They just want the girls to turn up. Again, for one reason. But when they find out that they're working, they decide they're going to do something different. They're basically going to threaten the girls, knock them out, and then steal a whole bunch of money from the shop. You're going to try and rob a convenience store and knock out two girls. Real classy. Real classy characters. Don't worry, the little buggers meet their end. Eventually. When they go into the shop in order to eliminate this threat, they end up discovering that there's someone else wandering around. Oh, and I also got something else. Johnny Depp was wandering around before all this started. Some dude got killed by something, and Johnny Depp's trying to figure it out. That's why he turns up in this movie at all. Because he's trying to solve these murders. Because apparently he's a big deal, since stopping, or helping to stop, and save the life of the man who got turned into a walrus. Who was still turned into a walrus and was mentally and emotionally scarred from said experience. How do you get famous from that? Moving on. In this movie, you then discover that the two boys who were, let's face it, I am just going to call them boys, they're not men, not by a long shot in a friggin' way. They end up being killed by some unknown force when the girls look down and realise what it is. Bratwurst. Bratwurst in Nazi uniforms, with mustaches, talking German, and look like Kevin Smith. If you follow Kevin Smith's Instagram account, there were a series of pictures where he'd shaved off the beard and gone full normal. This was due to his part in Yoga Hosers, where he literally got put up in makeup and was recorded and CGI'd onto these created into these little CGI characters, talking German and running around and shouting out things, and his voice being taken up several octaves to sound small and annoying. It's all very weird and yet hilarious all at the same time. I don't understand. But anyway, the girls start kicking butt. They end up knocking a whole bunch of things out and blah blah blah, and all such things occur. After beating the crap out of all of these bratwursts, they end up being taken in by the police, who end up being contacted because there's a bunch of noise and disturbances going on inside the store, because let's face it, you wouldn't exactly get attacked by bratwurst Nazis, or bratwurst Nazis, and you wouldn't make a noise. You would make noise. You would start yelling and shouting about this. The police obviously take this to mean that the two girls are behind it, and they end up getting arrested. Johnny Depp, on the other hand, ends up getting them out of the situation in order to help him solve the crime of the murders, because he believes that whatever these small brass Nazis are doing is part of the bigger plot as to why all these murders were occurring in the first place. So they go off, and they do their thing. What happens next requires a little bit of explanation. Earlier in the movie, they were in school, and they learn about this part of Canada's history. This part of Canada's history that involves Nazis in Germany. In Canada. Canadian Nazis. I'm going to have to steal a line from Blues Brothers here and just change it up a little bit. Canadian Nazis. I hate Canadian Nazis. But these Nazis were not very effective. They just weren't. However, there was one there that was actually German, played of course by the irresistible and Hollywood Babylon podcaster Ralph Garman. For those members of the Garmy who might end up watching this thing, he is awesome. Just Garmy, Garmy, Garmy. I can't do this without a bunch of people around me, it just doesn't work as well. It's sad, but true. But during all of this, Ralph Garman's character ends up trying to help the Canadian Nazis in order to start proclaiming and in order to find a way to secure Canada and therefore the United States for Hitler once he attempts to invade them, once he's conquered the rest of Europe. As we all know from history lessons, Hitler failed spectacularly in doing so, and Germany ended up surrendering and World War II was won. However, when this happened, the Canadian Nazis were all rounded up and precedingly, thrown in jail and whatnot. But Ralph Garman, his Nazi character, disappeared. Never to be seen again. No one knows what happened. No one knows if he's alive or dead or whatever. However, in the third act of this movie, in the final climax, the Colleens are knocked out, along with Johnny Depp, and they end up in this underground lair, filled with swastikas and Ralph Garman, who explains to them this plan that he had once tried to create art, and had been panned by critics his entire life, and decided to enact his final revenge, creating little clones of Nazis, aka the Kevin Smith Bratwurst Nazis, and creates his final masterpiece, a golem that will go out, hunt down, and kill critics. He of course does this with the aid of the girls who woke him up with their loud music and everything else up above with their band practices, also helped him by providing him with pop culture references and whatnot. Oh, and one other thing you need to know about this Nazi is that in order to explain his plan in a least threatening way possible, with a least threatening voice as possible, he decided to take on different impressions. Now, for those of you who've listened to Hollywood Babylon, you know that Ralph Garman is the man of... He was 8 impressions, is now 15 or something like that, I'm not sure. 15, 16, I'm not sure. But at the time, he was considered the man of 8 impressions. To which point, he uses those 8 impressions in order to show off and to explain his plan, whilst also delivering his various voices. A lot of critics didn't like this. I'll get to that later on. But that's the thing. The girls end up ruining his plan. They beat the shit out of the Bratzies. He ends up being killed by his own golem. They save the day. They get recognized for this in the paper, and they go back to doing yoga with their guy Yogi. The end of the movie is literally that. Them doing yoga. And singing in their band. That's literally how the movie ends. I mean, sweet jeez. This movie's brilliant. It's not for me. I'm not the demographic for this movie. I never was. And I get that. The demographic for this movie are, I'd say 13 to possibly 17, 18-year-old girls. Girls who are also into horror movies. That's a demographic, right? Should be, anyway. But here's the thing. Like Tusk, this movie is so batshit out there that it works. To the critics who don't like this movie, fine. You went to this movie because you were paid to do it, and you came out feeling less than satisfied. I get that. Believe me, I get that in droves. But It's like Kevin once said, again, reviews of this movie. He said, for the people that will really love it, they'll really love it. And I think that's true. It's filled with a bunch of stuff that teenage girls will get. Hell, teenagers in general will get. There's a whole bunch of like Instagram or Snapchat-esque things that pop up every so often to explain different characters and their stats and the various hashtags that go along with them. That's such a teenager thing, that generational thing to do, which is brilliant. It's brilliant to throw it in there. The third act is all about how Kevin Smith at one point hated critics, said fuck you to the critics. And now he's basically saying, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that, I shouldn't have said that, let's all move on with our lives. You know what? There are worse ways to make an apology, Kevin, and quite frankly, that hit the nail on the head for me. You know what? Well done, congrats, namaste. But that's not even the bit that makes me laugh. What I actually laugh in this movie is all of the stuff that's in there that's meant to be funny. Kevin's mum comes in at one point dressed in a hockey jersey. She wanders past and looks at her own grandchild with this look of contempt, which you cannot help but laugh your ass off at. You just can't. It's brilliant. Then you've got all these various characters, all of them have thrown caution to the wind and decided, fuck it, let's do it. Ralph Garman is hilarious in this movie. I don't give a shit if his impressions are stale or, you know, he's chewing the scenery. He's meant to be chewing the scenery, guys. He's meant to be chewing the scenery. The goddamn guy is a psychopathic Nazi who does impressions of random pop culture references, including Adam West's Batman. And do you know what? This movie was made when Adam West was still alive, and you know what? Bless him. But after Adam West died, I'm sorry, that movie takes on a whole new meaning for me and brings out a whole much more of a comedic side. And do you know why? Simply because he sits there and puts on the Adam West voice. He has... That was awful, by the way. I'm terribly sorry. But he hits it right on the head, and he gets it right. That, to me, is the reason to watch Yoga Hosers, is to watch all these random little moments that are thrown throughout this movie that are just exquisitely done. They are so well done, it is amazing to watch. Kevin Smith is a bratwurst Nazi. Watch this movie simply for that. Oh, and one other thing. This wouldn't be a Kevin Smith movie unless he made a reference to Clerks at somewhere along the line. And that reference is in one very sweet, very epic line. There might be other references to Clerks in this movie. Hell, the whole thing possibly is a reference because they all work in a convenience store, but I don't care. There is one brilliant moment that I say is a total kickback to Clerks. And that is when Harley Quinn, the daughter of the man who made the 1994 hit of Clerks, turns around to her own father dressed as a Nazi and as a sausage on the floor with a hockey stick and shouts at the top of her lungs, I'm not even supposed to be here today! Watch this movie. It's brilliant, it's funny, and you know what? It's what we need. Now, I made this video simply because I wanted to watch Yoga Hosers after watching Tusk. I did. And I figured that the best way for me to be able to do that is to keep on talking about Kevin Smith's work. Because the man is funny to me. He is funny as hell. There are some laybacks to his work, I'm not going to lie. I'm not a fan of Cop Out. But I don't think Jersey Girl was half bad. I liked Zack and Miri Make a Porno. All of those movies that he's done are in some way, shape or form good. The only one that I don't like is Cop Out. And that's literally because I'm not a Bruce Willis fan. That's just me. Apart from Die Hard. Everyone likes Die Hard. But that's why you gotta watch Yoga Hosers. Just those little snippets thrown throughout the movie. Those little things. This movie is, to me, what I refer to as the ultimate representation of a director and writer who truly has just decided that it's what he wants. The only way to make good art is not to do things for the masses, but to do it for yourself. And he's done a fantastic job here. I think Harley Quinn and Lily Rose Depp did a fantastic job. I think Johnny Depp was fucking fantastic. I love Ralph Garman in this movie. All of the actors and actresses did an amazing job. And for that, and for many other reasons, I submit you watch Yoga Hosers. Now this video is going to be short, I don't deny it. But enjoy this movie, guys. Enjoy this movie. Watch it. Laugh with it. If you don't like it, fine. But starting next week, I'm going to do a little bit more of a rant thing. I have this thing that I want to sort of talk about. For all of you anime fans out there, I say anime fans, kid show anime fans anyway, just ready your dual discs and ready your dueling decks. Because next week, I plan to do some Yu-Gi-Oh talking. Randomfish out.